Inside My Head meets two teenagers living in the shadow of mental illness at 8:05 after the news.
Brazil lifts the World Cup for the 5th time, proving they are, simply, the best footballing nation on the planet. With 2 winning goals, it was Ronaldo's victory, full circle from disaster and blame in '98 to brilliance and glory today. Good evening. Brazilians of every nationality are celebrating. The infective pageant has drawn to its climax with worthy winners. Tonight, the best bits and the essential facts and figures. Also tonight, Israel moves into new West Bank areas, but this time to demolish illegal Jewish settlements. The black hole in WorldCom's finances could be 5 times bigger than first thought. And something fishy with US policy in the Philippines, how Uncle Sam takes with one hand while giving with the other.
And the other headlines tonight, Ken Livingstone has applied to rejoin the Labour Party. Can the party he ran against find it in itself to readmit him? And after half a century without them, could identity cards be on their way back?
So finally, it is all over. After a month of surprises, shocks and downright injustices, in the end, the best team won. Brazilian brilliance overcame German efficiency, and the 2002 World Cup is heading to Rio. An estimated 1.5 billion people watched the game around the world, but none so joyously as the thousands who took to the streets of Brazil to celebrate their hero's triumph. And as Kemi and Zeram reports, they witnessed a personal triumph for the Brazilian striker, Ronaldo.
Call him the comeback kid, call him Golden Boots. This is Ronaldo's World Cup. His goals securing Brazil the title for a record 5th time. Day 30 of the 17th World Cup finals, and something is in the air. Copacabana and the beach bums knew it. The sturdy burghers of Berlin knew it. Even humble pooches in Yokohama knew it. Some camped out to make sure they'd get the best seats for the sporting event of the year. As the teams sang their anthems, television crowds across the world, estimated at 1.5 billion, cheered them on. The tidy, the efficient, the predictable, versus the exponents of the beautiful game. The 2 most successful teams in World Cup history, with 7 trophies between them, but never had they met before on football's biggest stage. But in this World Cup of surprises, how the form book can be upset. The Brazilian defence, always their weak point, looked stretched from kickoff. More than once, Edmilson making crucial last-minute challenges. It only takes a moment of brilliance, though, as England will surely testify, the boys from Brazil to write you off. Luckily for the Germans, Ronaldo hadn't yet read the script. Even so, the final word of the first half, Ronaldo. Lightning quick, but Oliver Kahn was up to the challenge. Brazil may have ended the half in charge, but the Germans started the second inspired. Both goalkeepers had to keep their wits about them. Someone's concentration had to slip. And when Kahn spilled Rivaldo's shot, the world's best keeper could only crawl in desperation. This time, Ronaldo needed no rehearsal. Suddenly, Brazil were on song and on top. Not just samba football, but incisive attacking play. With the help of Rivaldo, Ronaldo was on course to claim his footballing birthright. For football purists, justice surely done. Substituted for the final few moments, Ronaldo could hardly watch. Football really was on the way to its spiritual home. Rio was in ecstasy. Berlin, a contrast of emotions. The man that had fulfilled his and his country's destiny, the toast of Yokohama. His would-be nemesis, cruelly dejected. And the image all of Brazil had been waiting for, their captain Cafu, clearly not content with merely hoisting the trophy. Brazil, world champions again.
And later in the programme, Mr. Golden Boot, Ronaldo's place in the World Cup Roll of Honour, and the last visit to the virtual bedroom for the answer to our wall chart contest, Mr. Fujimoto's final word on World Cup 2002. Israeli demolition squads have been in action on the West Bank again today, but this time they were removing the homes of Jewish settlers. The government say they're illegal settlements and that the soldiers defending them would be better deployed elsewhere. But within Israel, Palestinian attacks continued, with a commuter train the latest target, as Rifat Malik reports.
The train was packed with 500 people when the bomb was detonated on a parallel set of tracks as it travelled through the central Israeli town of Lod. This latest suspected Palestinian attack happened during the rush hour at the start of the Israeli working week. Miraculously, only 4 people were injured. Meanwhile, the Israeli hunt for Arab militants is already well underway. They're still searching for the bodies of those who'd taken refuge in the Palestinian security compound in Hebron. And in Ramallah, soldiers have surrounded the Al-Amari refugee camp, rounding up dozens of Palestinian men and young boys. But it's come as the Israeli Defense Minister Benjamin Ben-Eliezer has ordered the dismantling of 10 rogue Jewish settlements in the West Bank, seen widely as a move to placate Labour doves in Ariel Sharon's right-wing coalition. Eliezer's already under fire for ordering the construction of a fence in the West Bank. It's designed to stop Palestinian militants from entering cities like Jerusalem. But angry settlers claim it will lead to a de facto Palestinian state.
We are here demonstrating in front of the Prime Minister's offices, demanding from Ariel Sharon to stop building the fence that is built on the 1967 borders, also known as the Auschwitz borders. And we are telling the Prime Minister, fence the terrorists in, kill the terrorists, and don't fence the victims in. Secondly, we are shocked and outraged to hear this morning that Ariel Sharon allows the Minister of Defense to evacuate 10 or more Jewish outposts.
It's the expansion of illegal settlements like these that's at the heart of the ongoing dispute in the Middle East, with some 200,000 Israelis now living in nearly 150 Jewish settlements. For the Palestinians, they will always be a legitimate target.
Well, earlier I spoke to the Israeli government spokesman Aryeh Mekel and asked him why they'd begun to dismantle illegal settlements now.
For the last 4 years, namely during the Barak government and the Sharon government, we have a policy of not building any new settlements. This is done in order to facilitate political negotiations with the Palestinians whenever they may be restarted. Therefore, we are certainly against these illegal outposts which are built or constructed without the government approval. And after some negotiations, the time has come in a way to put the foot down and say to these people who have put out these outposts illegally that they must remove them.
Will you get rid of them all?
At this point, we are talking about removing 10 outposts, and there might be more in the future.
I suppose any supporter of the Palestinians would say they're all illegal settlements, though.
They would, but this is not our position. Our position is these settlements have been built basically since 1967 for the last 35 years with the approval of all Israeli government. However, we have said many times that all of these settlements can be discussed at the negotiating table and that there are no preconditions, namely anything can be discussed.
How does this fit, though, with what the Israeli army is doing in the West Bank cities and the ongoing military operation? Are you trying to send a deliberate signal, a conciliatory signal, perhaps, to the Palestinian leadership?
Well, in a way, these are two separate things. On one hand, we are very determined to fight terror to the best of our ability, and this is why our army is basically now in control of all Palestinian cities in the West Bank, with the exception of Jericho. What we do there, we pursue terrorists, we arrest them, we confiscate weapons, and we try to dismantle the terror infrastructure. On the other hand, if you want, you can see the outpost issue as a signal. We want our neighbors to know all the time that we have no dispute with the Palestinian people, we only have a dispute with the terrorists. And once they give up terror as a strategy, they will find out, perhaps to their surprise, although they shouldn't be surprised, that the government of Israel and the people of Israel are very eager to sit down, talk, and do away with all these problems. And they will be surprised how forthcoming will be on so many issues.
And in the last few minutes, it's been reported that Israeli special forces have killed a leading bomb maker within the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Israel Radio is reporting that the troops raided a house in the West Bank city of Nablus, shooting dead 2 men, including Mohammed al-Tahir, the leader of a group responsible for the deaths of more than 100 Israelis. Now, could Ken Livingstone be about to return to the Labour fold? He's applied to rejoin the party that expelled him only 2 years ago during the acrimonious battle to become Mayor of London. And now it's up to the party's national executive to consider his case later next month. The thought of his return was evidently less than appetising to the Deputy Prime Minister when it was put to him this morning.
Last time when he came for us, he told us that tissue was lies. I just don't believe this man and whatever he says. But of course, I'll be fair in my consideration when it comes before the executive.
Well, after the farrago of the first mayoral campaign, the Labour Party is already considering how to select its candidate when the post comes up for re-election in 2 years' time. This week, the party chairman, Charles Clarke, called in Labour's London MPs to discuss their strategy. 2 of the finest, Jeremy Corbyn and Stephen Pound, are with us. Jeremy Corbyn, should he be allowed back?
Yes, I think he should. He was expelled from the Labour Party because he stood as an independent candidate, having been wrongly denied the Labour nomination.
But he was a straightforward traitor, wasn't he? I mean,
no,
he campaigned against the Labour Party, he defeated a Labour candidate, and you want to let him back without much of a smack on the wrist?
No, I don't think Ken's a traitor at all. Ken stood as a candidate for Labour in the selection process. The selection process was rigged against him. Overwhelmingly party members wanted him as a candidate. He then announced he was standing as an independent and was duly elected. I would have thought sense should prevail. Ken is a Labour man. Ken should be back in the Labour Party.
Stephen Pound, what do you make of this? Should he be back?
Yeah. No, I don't think he should be allowed back in. You can't have one rule for every single member of the Labour Party and another rule for Ken Livingstone. But I mean, he knows the rules. There's plenty of people who have been expelled from the party, and they would have a good case for demanding re-entry. But Londoners, I think, are getting pretty fed up with this. This is almost an internal Labour Party matter. You know, you can't fiddle while the city burns. I mean, I'm here in Woodend Gardens in Northolt with a real local problem, that the sort of thing that I'd like to have a mayor get a grip of. And what we want to see is the mayor leading London forward, not involving himself in these internal party matters. Londoners deserve better than that.
Do you think the recent affair over what happened at this party, the allegations made by the Evening Standard surrounding Ken Livingstone and his partner and a man who ended up unconscious, are a factor in this at all as to whether Labour should want him back as their mayoral candidate?
If people see that as a factor, I think that's their problem. I think that's utterly and completely irrelevant. If charges are pressed, if criminal charges are pressed, and apparently they're not going to be, then let's talk about that. But at the moment, it is a private incident at a private party, and I don't think that Ken deserves to have this sort of stuff dragged out into the public press. I think there's an agenda here. What's much, much more important is London policing, law and order, transport, the big issues that we want to see a mayor taking us forward into the new century.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Ken has done his best as the Mayor of London with very limited powers. He's changed the agenda around to one of social housing, to one of improving police services in London, and to improving public transport. That's good. The idea there's 2 rules in the Labour Party is complete nonsense. Alan Howarth, former Tory MP, Sean Woodward, former Tory MP, were both admitted to the Labour Party straight across the floor of the House and endorsed as candidates.
But can you have a Labour mayoral candidate who fundamentally disagrees with key Labour policies?
He doesn't disagree with key Labour policies. Ken supports integrated public transport and social housing. He doesn't disagree with the Transport
Department over the Tube, does he?
Well, the Transport Department and the Labour Party are perhaps in this matter rather 2 different things. What Ken wants is a publicly funded, publicly controlled and publicly run transport system in London that happens to be cheaper than borrowing money from the private sector.
Stephen Pound, isn't the bottom line that the Labour Party needs Ken Livingstone more than Ken Livingstone needs the Labour Party? He won in any case.
I don't think so. I mean, if anyone really wants to put money on Ken winning in 2004 now, I'll take the bet.
Well, he made a bit of a fool of your party last time round, didn't he? I mean, and you were pretty confident then as well.
No, let's just say one thing that Ken does brilliantly is be a victim. Ken is absolutely wonderful at being a victim. He's not perhaps so brilliant at being a leader or being a mayor of London. He can play that, and last time around, people saw the opportunity to have a free hit at the Labour government, at Tony Blair. Yes, they didn't like what went on in the selection process. Very, very few of us did. But at the end of the day, don't forget, Ken promised that he would not stand against the Labour candidate, whatever the result of the selection process was. He broke that promise.
Okay.
He's made his bed. He's got to lie on it.
Stephen Pound, Jeremy Corbyn, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, sir.
Now with news of a plan to bring back identity cards after half a century, and the rest of the news in brief, here's Bridget.
Plans to introduce ID cards are being discussed next week, with opposition expected from across the party divide. The government consultation paper on what the Home Office wants to be known as entitlement cards will call for a national debate on the issue. Critics say it will be too expensive to implement, will encourage identity fraud and will undermine civil liberties.
To begin with, they said this is a way of clamping down on terrorism. Then they shifted it and said this is a way of clamping down on benefit fraud. Now they're asking us to believe that this is a way of combating illegal asylum seekers. They keep shifting the goalposts. I think they've got a solution looking for a problem here, and I think the government should come clean about exactly why they want these proposals enacted in law.
From tomorrow, all long-term care for the elderly, including personal care, such as help with eating and washing, will be free in Scotland. But in England and Wales, personal care will remain means-tested. Anyone with assets of more than £10,000 must pay some of the cost. Those with more than £18,000 have to pay for everything. The government claims 7 out of 10 people already have some or all of their personal care paid for by the state. But Help the Aged says everyone should have the same benefits regardless of where they live.
It is ludicrous that we should have a distinction, a postcode lottery about whether you get your care fully funded, as you will do in Scotland, or rather miserably and partially, as in the rest of the United Kingdom.
Teachers are to be legally obliged to report signs of child abuse in their pupils to the social services under 2 amendments to the Education Bill. The change to the law follows the death of 6-year-old Lauren Wright, whose stepmother was convicted of her manslaughter. She was frequently bruised, and as her condition deteriorated, her weight fell from 6 stones to 2, but her teachers failed to report her case. Surrey police have denied reports that serious mistakes have been made in the hunt for the missing teenager Millie Dowler. In a statement, the force said that the transfer of the officer leading the inquiry to other duties was due to the workload within the division. There was some good news tonight for British farmers. The French have just announced that they're delaying a ban on the import of British lamb due to begin tomorrow. The French had proposed to accept only carcasses of lamb over 6 months old, with all spinal cord removed. Currently, 70% of Britain's exports are directed at France. The ban is now due to take effect in 6 months' time. Now, could it be the Jubilee spirit? British athletes completed a clean sweep in the 100 metres race in Sheffield today, pushing the world and Olympic champion Maurice Greene into an extraordinary 6th place. Dwayne Chambers took 1st place, but was hard-pressed by the upcoming teenager Mark Lewis-Francis. Jason Gardner came in 3rd. It's the 2nd time in 3 days that Chambers has beaten Greene. And on the turf, it was high honours for High Chaparral. The English Derby winner and favourite cruised to victory today by 3.5 lengths in the Irish Derby, becoming only the 15th horse to complete the double. On to cricket, and at the Oval, India have beaten Sri Lanka in the triangular one-day series. Despite some shaky moments, India won by 4 wickets, ending on 203 for 6. They've now won both their matches and look well placed to go through to the final.
Now, in case you hadn't noticed, it's been an extraordinary week on the financial markets as the corporate world gasps at the latest revelations of alleged fraud and false accounting to come out of the United States. Here in Britain, the FTSE 100 index is 500 points lower than at the start of the year, and any chance of a recovery seems slim given the latest reports suggesting that this week's collapse of WorldCom may be far worse than originally thought. Well, our business correspondent Jonathan Rugman is here. I mean, Jonathan, when you see everything that's been going on, is there a pattern?
I think the pattern is that lying, stealing and cheating lie at the heart of the American financial system, and I don't think I'm exaggerating either. It's significant that the Securities and Exchange Commission, the regulator, has launched 64 investigations in the first quarter of this year into some of the biggest, most famous companies in America. Companies have been misreporting their profits for years, but it's only now that things are finally catching up with them. There are going to be a lot more revelations to come. The one to look out for that currently is not under investigation is General Electric, one of the biggest companies in the world. Some of the papers are reporting this morning that General Electric last year reported profits of $1.4 billion on the basis of a credit it had taken from the company's own pension fund. In other words, this wasn't money that General Electric had earned, and it was perfectly legal. It was within American accounting practices I think there are going to be many more revelations like that to come.
You see, we saw George Bush yesterday promising a crackdown, but I mean, is it really anything like a crackdown?
I think he's angrier than he's ever been, and I think there will be changes, but I question how far they go. It's significant that no bill has been passed through Congress. Every time anyone tries to put something through, it gets watered down by special interest groups. So the outlook is really not good. You've also got a situation where the Vice President, Dick Cheney, used to be head of a company which is one of those under investigation by the SEC. It's significant this morning that the morning talk shows in America were dominated not by this issue, which you might expect, but by the Middle East and by the war on terror. And President Bush is ironically far happier as a foreign policy president than he is as a domestic policy president, if domestic policy means standing up to your buddies in big business.
And what about over here? I mean, could it happen?
I think it could. I mean, clearly accounting standards are higher, tighter here than they are in America. But we have a similar situation. We had a stock market that was booming and that ended. We had highly paid chief executives of high-tech companies trying to boost their share prices, keep them as high as they could, supervised by audit and remuneration committees that probably weren't tough enough. So the atmosphere for something to go wrong was there. It's also worth saying that companies in the UK capitalise labour costs, which is one of the ways you move expenditure around on paper. British Telecom has done it, Cable and Wireless has done it. It's not illegal, but it is no wonder that Gordon Brown apparently has asked for the investigation he's launched into accounting practices to be speeded up and to report in the next fortnight. The other thing that really worries me is the role of analysts in the city, who, anecdotal evidence, any business journalist will tell you, will have ramped up shares in companies they are trying to woo as clients. The other worry is, of course, the fund managers who have invested in companies and may not have been asking enough questions.
So what's the investor supposed to do? I mean, is it the end of playing the market?
I'm not qualified to give financial advice. I merely point out that at the beginning of the year, the analysts in the city were saying, we expect the stock market, the FTSE 100, to hit 6,000 points. It's now, 4,600, 4,700, and it may yet have further to fall.
Jonathan Rugman, thank you. When we come back, the USA's war on terror has opened up a second front in the Philippines, where American troops are helping to hunt down Islamic militants. But could punitive new US trade rules, now under consideration in Congress, end up fueling the very extremism the military is hoping to stamp out? We have a special report.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Check ignition and... Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who's gonna dance another word? The senorita can swing. She's gonna dance another word. Major Tom, can you hear?
Under the right conditions, some things can last longer than you might expect. Bosch Complete Food Care keeps food safe and fresh for longer. Bosch.
Welcome back. Now, ever since September the 11th, the USA has taken its self-styled war on terror well beyond Afghanistan and around the world. But in the Philippines, the realities of American foreign policy may be catching up with it. While hundreds of US soldiers are trying to flush out Islamic militant Abu Sayyaf rebels in Mindanao province, the US Congress is planning new trade rules that will cripple the Philippines' tuna industry. And many say the resulting hardship will simply fuel the very extremism the US is hoping to defeat. Our Asia correspondent, Ian Williams, has been to General Santos, the Philippines' tuna capital, to see how US foreign policy is throwing up its own conflicts.
Our aim is not just to defeat terrorists, but to build the foundations of a just and peaceful and tolerant society afterwards.
Try telling that to the tuna workers of General Santos City. While America steps up the war on terror, several hundred US soldiers helping track Islamic insurgents in the southern Philippines, the US Congress is considering new trade rules that could kill one of this volatile region's most important industries.
The impact would be that there'll be more poverty and there'll be more radicalism, and I don't know, I'm afraid that terrorism may again thrive.
General Santos is the tuna capital of the Philippines. It lies at the heart of an impoverished region racked by insurgents and bandits, some linked to Al-Qaeda. More than half the city's 400,000 people depend on tuna, which also draws workers from poor Muslim communities across the region.
This is where they grade the fish. The bigger, better quality tuna will soon be heading to the sushi bars of Japan, the rest to the canning factories. This is now the most important business in General Santos. There are few people whose lives haven't been affected by it.
By far the biggest market for canned tuna is the United States.
Under the new rule before Congress, preference would be given to Latin American tuna,
which will be allowed in duty-free in an effort to wean those countries off the drug trade. Canned tuna from the Philippines would face duties of up to 35%. The European Union has already imposed a 24% duty.
We will be retrenching people. Most of our employees are Muslims from the mountains. They decided to work instead of being a rebel.
Mr. Fernandez